Hello, I'm Alex. I'm 34, and until recently, I was absolutely sure about my life, my career, and most importantly, my marriage. I've been married to Sophia for 8 years. Our relationship has always been the rock upon which I built my entire world. Sophia is a pediatrician. She's smart, kind, and honestly, she's always been my best friend. We have 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter, Liza, and a 4-year-old son, Max. Our life is the embodiment of the American dream. A suburban home, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Gus, and an endless stream of kids' drawings on the fridge. I'm an architectural designer, and while my job demands attention, it allows me to be relatively flexible, which helped compensate for Sophia's absence due to her demanding schedule. But, as often happens, the strongest walls can be torn down by an invisible crack. The crack didn't appear because of a huge argument or a noticeable lack of passion. It arose from the silence and fatigue. Sophia has always been busy, but for the past 6 months, her busyness became absolute. Shifts, late-night calls, medical conferences that became necessary for her career advancement. Our evenings, which used to be ours, turned into mine. I would put Liza and Max to bed, read them stories about dragons and princesses, make dinner, usually just for myself, empty the dishwasher, and sit in the living room, staring into the void of a screen I didn't even turn on. I started feeling less like a husband and more like a family logistics manager and a keeper of a hearth where the coals were barely glowing. And I never blamed her out loud. I understood that it was her job, her calling. She saves lives. I was just missing her. Missing the way she laughed at my jokes, missing how we used to drink wine in the kitchen after the kids were asleep, discussing the unimportant little things that made our life meaningful. The price of gas, Gus's silly antics, plans for a summer vacation that seemed would never arrive. I constantly tried to reach her, but her gaze seemed to be behind glass. Focus on the next patient, the next shift. Alex, you know how much I love you. But I'm so exhausted I can barely think, let alone talk, she would say, and I knew it was true. Her fatigue was her armor, and my loneliness was my quiet prison. It was during this period of silence that Emily appeared at my work. Emily was a new client. She owned a small but thriving gallery downtown and wanted to transform an old, run-down warehouse into a modern art space. She was 30. She was a complete opposite of Sophia. Bright, slightly chaotic, artistic, with a fire in her old bronze-colored eyes that seemed to bring everything around her to life. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and her style was bold and free. Our meetings were supposed to be strictly business. We discussed blueprints, layout, materials, and budget. But from the first meeting, I felt our conversations were lingering. Alex, this color will be perfect for my bedroom when I renovate it. Maybe you'd like to come over and give me a professional opinion, she once said, leaning across the table, holding my gaze longer than the situation required. I felt my neck flush. The next time, discussing lighting, do you really understand visual art so well? I thought architects were only about functionality, about straight lines. You turned out to be an interesting surprise. These moments were like slight pushes that knocked me off my rock. I couldn't help but respond to them. It felt like a gulp of fresh air, so desperately needed at home. She didn't demand anything from me except my attention. She saw me, not as a father, not as a husband, not as a logistics manager, but as an interesting person with his own thoughts, hidden dreams, and tastes that I had long buried under a layer of domestic duties. I started looking forward to our meetings. I began paying more attention to what I wore, even shaved more carefully. These were such small, subconscious steps that I didn't admit the reason to myself. I called it professionalism. One evening, after 4 hours of discussing the placement of the internal courtyard, Emily leaned back in her chair and sighed. My brain is melting. Enough with the concrete and steel. Let's grab a cocktail. Discuss the lighting for the lounge area. I know a cool, atmospheric place where we can just switch off our brains. And I need your opinion on my idea of using neon tubes on the ceiling. It's still work, right? She playfully winked. My inner self screamed, "No, you're married. You're happy. Sophia is waiting for you to call." But I knew Sophia was on a night shift at the hospital, and she wasn't waiting for a call because she needed peace. And that other, quieter part of me, the one tired of silence, replied, "Why not? It's just a cocktail. A business cocktail. It's not cheating." That was my first big lie to myself. We went. It was a hidden, dimly lit bar with jazz music and heavy velvet curtains. Our spot was secluded, almost intimate. The light was dim, the music was jazzy, and her smile was too bright. We didn't talk about work, or perhaps we did, but through the lens of something bigger, about the dreams we'd buried, the fears we hide, and the books that changed our lives. She told me about her failed marriage to a musician, her passion for forgotten paintings, and how she fell out of place in the business world. I told her about my love for old buildings, how I missed a time when I could stay up all night drawing, and how I felt disconnected from my own life. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living, not just existing. I was seen and heard. Then, when she reached across the table to touch my hand, explaining how important it was to feel the art with your fingertips, an electric current shot between us. Her touch was light, but immensely significant. It wasn't just a touch. It was an invisible step, a step toward betrayal that, at the moment, felt like a step toward rescue from my gray reality. I didn't sleep that night. I got home around 1 a.m. Sophia came home around 2 a.m. She quietly changed in the bathroom and immediately fell asleep. I lay next to her, looking at her tired but peaceful face, and my heart clenched with guilt. But at the same time, a fire of new desire burned. The next week was hell. Emily messaged me, "You have very sincere eyes, Alex. That's rare. I'm still thinking about how neon tubes will change the space, and about what we talked about." I replied. We started texting. Short, seemingly innocent messages that quickly turned into sparkling exchanges, full of double meanings. Discussing lamps turned into discussing sparks, and planning into unforeseen paths. I became irritable at home, constantly checking my phone. Liza asked, "Daddy, you keep looking at your little screen. Is that your new friend?" Sophia just sighed. She was too tired to notice these changes. Or perhaps I just wanted to think so. I withdrew from everyone, wrapping myself in my secret world. I felt torn in half. When we met the next time to discuss the space planning, we didn't even open the blueprints. It was a Saturday, and I told Sophia I had to urgently go to the site to deal with a contractor issue. A lie. We just sat in her car in a parking lot, near a quiet park. The air was tense, thick. She turned to me, put her hand on my neck. Her touch burned away my intention to remain professional. Her eyes sought mine, and she said, "You carry so much. Let it go for a second." And then, in that moment, I betrayed Sophia. It was a kiss that lasted only a few seconds, but it tore my fidelity into a million pieces. It was frantic, fast, and like a gulp of water in the desert. I felt the guilt even before I pulled away from her. When I got home, I found Sophia in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table, staring at her phone. "Where have you been?" I called. "You didn't answer," she asked. Her tone wasn't accusatory, just tired and slightly confused. Stuck with a client. I lied, and the taste of the lie was like ash. My phone was on silent. "Sorry." "Listen," she said, putting down her phone. "I know I've been absent lately. I just got a notification that my conference in Boston was canceled. I'm taking tomorrow off. Just us. No kids, they're at my mom's. No work. Let's just remember who we are. I ordered that expensive cheese you like." Her words hit harder than any argument. She was trying, and I had just spat on her attempt by kissing another woman. I was trapped between my duty and this unplanned, dangerous affair that I felt had already begun. Now I stand here in my perfect living room, looking at a photo of my family, feeling like I am the biggest hypocrite in the world. What should I do? Can I turn back when I've already taken this invisible step? This is no longer just a fling. It's a lie that could destroy everything I value. Sophia smiled, and her fatigue momentarily vanished. That moment of genuine, spontaneous happiness from her side pierced me like a knife. She didn't know. She was planning our romantic day, and I had just returned from a forbidden kiss. "You look beautiful when you smile, Soph," I said, feeling my words become the biggest lie in the history of our marriage. I walked over and hugged her, but in that moment, the embrace felt cold and foreign to me. I could smell Emily's perfume on my shirt, and I was sure Sophia would notice it. I held her tight, hoping this gesture of guilt and repentance would somehow dissipate the scent. "I know I've been a bad wife lately," she whispered, leaning into my neck. "I love you so much, Alex. And I love our life. I just got lost in my job. But I'm coming back. I promise." Those words, they should have been my salvation, my ticket back to safety. Instead, they became my curse. She was coming back, and I was already standing at the threshold, ready to leave. The next day was our day off. The kids were at Grandma's, and the house was finally quiet. But this silence was heavier than the constant children's noise. I couldn't relax. Every attempt she made to connect, a hand on my knee, a long gaze filled with nostalgia, triggered panic in me. We sat in the backyard, drinking the expensive Italian wine, and eating the cheese she bought. Sophia talked about her dreams, maybe reducing her workload, perhaps starting to teach at a medical college to have more time for the family. She was painting a picture of our future, and I sat there seeing Emily's neon tubes and the sparkle in her eyes. "You're so quiet today," Sophia said, putting down her glass. "Aren't you happy?" I forced a smile. "Happy, sophomore. Just a lot of work thoughts. Big project. You know how it is." "I know how it is," she said, leaning closer, her eyes filling with doubt. "But you're not even looking at me. You seem to be hiding behind this work. Are you really okay, Alex? Or have I just tired you out that much?" This was my chance to confess to the emotional distance, to feeling lonely, and maybe even to lie about just a slight flirtation to ease my conscience. But to confess to physical betrayal? Never. I couldn't break her heart, especially when she was so vulnerable and trying so hard. "It's not you, sophomore. It's me, just a little burned out. I need a break." I lied. She nodded, but her gaze was penetrating. "Okay, then I won't torture you. Let's just be. Let's put on some music and just dance." She put on our old song, the one we danced at our wedding, and held out her hand to me. As we danced in the living room, I felt like a fraud. Her touch, which used to bring me peace, now burned me. I thought of Emily, of how easy everything was with her. No expectations, no kids, no decades of history. Just the here and now. That evening, when we went to bed, our intimacy was the first real test for me. Sophia was tender, sweet, determined to reignite our passion. But I felt empty. I imagined Emily's face to justify my behavior, but only made me feel more disgusted with myself. It was the lowest I had sunk. The next morning, I woke up feeling that I had to stop this. With Emily. Now, I didn't want to be that kind of man. I loved Sophia. I loved my family. What happened was a mistake. Fueled by my loneliness and her exhaustion, I texted Emily when I was at work. I invented some excuse about the client suddenly changing concept, and now our project had to be strictly business and uncompromising. "Emily, we need to stop all-person conversations. It's unethical and jeopardizes my marriage. Our next meetings will only be about blueprints and materials. I apologize if I gave you false hope. Alex." I hit send and felt a brief relief that quickly turned into a sharp pang of loss. I had just cut myself off from the only source of genuine emotion I had felt in 6 months. Her reply came an hour later. "Alex, do you really think I don't see what happened? You didn't give me false hope. You gave yourself a false sense of security. Fine, have it your way. Blueprints only. But please, when you look at your wife today, tell me who you see, the woman you love, or just a duty you must fulfill. See you on site at 3 p.m. Be professional." Her text disarmed me. She wasn't just a fling. She was a mirror that showed me my own, deeply hidden problem. I fear my marriage had turned into a duty. I tried to ignore the message, to focus on work. But I couldn't. At 2:50 p.m., I was already at the site. Emily was waiting for me. She was wearing tight jeans and a loose white shirt, unbuttoned just 2 buttons down. She looked stunning but held herself coldly, professionally. "All right, Alex. The project. Let's not waste our precious time," she said, handing me a roll of blueprints. We spent an hour discussing technical details. No personal glances, no innuendos. It was a hell of pure functionality. But then, as we stood in the empty, dusty hall, Emily unexpectedly slipped on a piece of cut cable. I instinctively grabbed her waist to keep her from falling. Our faces were inches apart. Her breath was warm and sweet. "Thank you, my savior," she whispered, and that same sparkle was back in her eyes. I didn't let go of her immediately. We stood like that, in the dust, in the middle of a construction site that should have been a symbol of my professionalism, but became the place of my fall. "You know this won't end just because you decided so," she said, almost sighing. "You can pretend it's a duty when you go home, but you can't pretend that with me anymore." I let go of her. I was trapped. I promised Sophia I would return, and I promised myself I would stop this. But now I knew I was lying to everyone, including myself. I drove home, but couldn't face Sophia feeling so dirty. I pulled into the garage and sat in the car, trying to breathe in the cold air. I checked my phone. No messages from Sophia, only one from Emily. "I just deleted your number from my business contacts. From now on, you're on my personal list. I'm not pressuring you, but I'm waiting for you to start breathing again." That text was the final nail. I realized this was a game, and I was losing. Now I had to make a choice. Either completely surrender to this new, exciting but destructive feeling, or find the strength to fight for my real life. The message from Emily about moving me to the personal list was my catalyst, my push to the edge. I sat in the garage in complete silence, feeling my entire body tense up. I should have hit the stop button. I should have gotten out of the car, gone upstairs to Sophia, confessed my guilt of emotional betrayal, deciding to conceal the physical part, and focus on her attempts to save our marriage. But instead, I hit the send reply button. "Fine. If you're waiting for me to start breathing, you need to provide some oxygen. Can't do the site. No one will be in my office tomorrow evening after 6 p.m. There's whiskey in silence. Alex." This text wasn't just an invitation for a date. It was a declaration to surrender my family logistics manager to the man who needed attention. All my subsequent actions were aimed at securing a perfect alibi. I called Sophia and told her I needed to bring work home, and since Emily's project had hit a dead end, I would have to stay late at the office to replan. "Are you sure you're not overworking yourself, honey?" she asked, and I felt her concern was genuine. "I have to. It's a big client. Sophomore. Either I do this or I lose him." "I love you," I said, and that was the easiest part of the lie. Because I did love her. I just loved her with a tired, habitual love, while Emily gave me a love as sharp as a blade. The next evening, at exactly 6:05 p.m., Emily was at my office door. She was wearing a black, elegant coat, and underneath it was a little black dress. She walked in, glanced at the shelves of blueprints, and said, "This is much better than a dusty warehouse." I closed the door and turned the key. That quiet clicking sound was like the closing of Pandora's box. We didn't talk about work. We poured whiskey. We talked about how afraid we were this moment and how necessary it felt. We sat on the floor amid stacks of papers, and she told me she wasn't looking for a relationship, that she was only attracted to the honesty of my attention. "You're the only one who isn't trying to be someone you're not," she said, pushing her glass aside. "You're here, and you know you shouldn't be here. And that prohibition makes you real." Then it happened, in my office, among my blueprints and desks that represented my perfect family life. I completely surrendered to this affair. It was a destructive act of passion that had nothing to do with love. It was pure escape, a desire to feel free, to feel that my body could still evoke such a reaction. When I returned home around midnight, I was filled with self-loathing and mad adrenaline. Sophia was asleep. I took a shower, scrubbing my skin almost raw, trying to wash away the invisible filth. But the betrayal was already inside. The next weeks were the hell of a double life. Emily and I met on average twice a week, late at night in my office, or in her gallery after closing. She was cautious, never texting during working hours, using only one secured messaging app. This made her the perfect accomplice in the crime. But the pressure was building. At home, Sophia noticed my secretiveness. I started dressing better, smelling better, thanks to Emily, but became emotionally colder. I no longer asked Sophia about her day, afraid she would ask about mine. One Sunday, when we were all playing in the park, Sophia looked at me as I sat on a bench, deep in thought about whether Emily had texted me. "Alex, you're checked out," Sophia said, sitting beside me. "You're here, but you're not here. It's not just work. I feel it. Something is wrong. Are you cheating on me?" The question was so direct, unexpected, and sharp that I almost choked on the air. "What?" "Sophia, what are you saying?" "Of course not. How can you think that? I work hard for us. I'm here every day. You're just tired. Don't worry yourself sick." My reply was too quick, too loud, too defensive. It was a lie filled with truth. She looked at me with a long, sad gaze. "I don't know. You're just different. You're becoming me again. Remember how busy and distant I was? You're the same now, but you're not letting me go. You're pushing me away." I felt like I was losing control. Her suspicion became an alarm bell for me, but not to stop, but to become more careful. The affair with Emily became a drug, and Sophia's suspicion was an enhancer of that feeling, because now I felt real danger. One time, when Emily visited my office, we were again laughing over a made-up reason for Sophia. She unexpectedly placed a small silver keychain shaped like a miniature wrench on my desk. "This was a gift from my first husband. It's a symbol that you can always unscrew the old things and start building something new," she said, her eyes serious. "I'm giving it to you. Use it." I refused, saying it was too personal a gift. I just wanted to maintain a physical boundary between our affair and my real life. But when I went to the restroom, she quietly slipped the keychain into the pocket of my work jacket. This keychain became a ticking time bomb. 2 days later, on a Tuesday, Sophia decided to surprise me. I was home, sitting at my laptop, replying to a very personal message from Emily, when I heard the garage door open. Sophia walked into the office, holding my work jacket. She was smiling. "Oh, honey, I just wanted to wash it for you. I don't want my favorite architect walking around in dirty clothes. I love your scent, but not the smell of construction dust." She walked up to me to kiss me, and as she hugged the jacket, she felt something in the pocket. She lowered her hand, her fingers gripping the cold metal. "What is this?" she asked, and her voice was no longer welcoming, but tense. She pulled out the silver keychain shaped like a wrench and held it in her palm. My world stood still. My brain screamed, "Lie! Invent something." But what could I say? I never used such keychains. It didn't look like office souvenirs. It's from the contractor. He thanked me for the help. It's a technical tool. I barely squeezed out. Sophia looked at the keychain, then at me, then back at the keychain. "That's a lie, Alex. This is silver, not cheap plastic. And it looks like a gift from someone who knows your style, but it's not my style. It doesn't look like something you bought yourself." "Who is it?" "Who is Emily?" I was in shock. How did she know the name? I don't know what you're talking about." "Which Emily?" My denial attempt was weak and pathetic. Sophia sighed and straightened up. Her face was stone cold, the fatigue gone, replaced by icy, dangerous clarity. "I'm not stupid, Alex. Your work has been my work for the past 6 months. I've heard you talk about clients. You never mentioned her until you started staying late. And 3 days ago, when you were sleeping, I accidentally saw your message notification. It was from Emily, and it only had one word: breathe. Now, will you tell me what this wrench is for and what you're trying to unscrew with it?" The world collapsed. Sophia stood with icy clarity in her eyes, holding the silver wrench, the symbol of my escape, in her hand. My attempt at denial had failed miserably. "You are cheating on me, Alex. Tell me, right now, or I will throw these house keys away, and you will never see the children again." Her voice wasn't a shout, but quiet, dead whisper that was more terrifying than any rage. I slumped onto a chair, my knees buckling. I lowered my head and whispered, "Yes, I cheated, but it's not what you think. It only happened." She cut me off sharply, not raising her tone. "What? Only once? Only emotionally? Are you so used to lying to me that even now you can't tell the truth? You know who she is. Emily, the architect? No. Who is she? I lifted my head. She was no longer my tired doctor wife. She was a prosecutor, and she had all the evidence. She's a client. The gallery owner, Emily Warner. I answered, each word heavy as lead. At first, it was just work. But you were so distant. I felt like nothing. She just started talking to me, listening to me. Sophia laughed. It was a bitter, dry laugh. Listening? You cheated on me because I was listening to too many sick children instead of you? Alex, I've saved lives in the last 6 months. Do you think that gives you the right to destroy ours? It's not a right, Soph. It's weakness. I'm not justifying myself. I'm explaining. You turned our marriage into a schedule of appointments, and me into a stay-at-home father. I didn't want to do this. But when you came back, you were empty. I was looking for fire, and she gave it to me. She saw me as a man, not just a piece of furniture in this house. The words erupted from me like a dirty, accumulated flood. Sophia threw the keychain onto the table. It clanged. Fire? Then go to your fire. But don't try to extinguish it with my tears. You mentioned I was tired? Do you know why I was tired? Because I was working triple shifts, so we could take out an extra mortgage to finish building that new big office of yours. The same office where you were probably kissing her while I was saving our neighbors from flu. I felt everything inside me clench with shame. Her sacrifice, which I perceived as neglect, was actually for our future. You don't understand how lonely I felt. I yelled, I understand betrayal. Alex, I understand that you deliberately chose another person instead of opening your mouth and saying, I feel disconnected. Let's make an effort. You chose an affair because it was easier than working on the marriage. She slammed her fist on the table. A pause followed. Long, loud, painful. I could hear the tap water running quietly in the next room. It was so mundane and so catastrophic. When did it start? How many times? Her voice became dead again. It was just a kiss. On Saturday, when I said I was with the contractor. And then I couldn't look her in the eyes. Twice in the office. Last week and yesterday, I was supposed to text her that I was stopping it. But you chose her again, she finished for me. She was shaking her head. Everything you told me about the replanning, the delays, it's all a lie. You made me believe that our day off, when I was trying to get us back, was just a break for you between dates with her. She picked up her phone. I want you to pack your things. Right now. And I want you to call Emily in front of me and tell her that you lost her. She won't be waiting for your call about breathing. She'll know you're a liar who can't handle difficulty. Sophia, no. Please, give me a chance. It was a mistake. I love you. I love the kids. I want to fix this. I tried to take her hand, but she pulled it away. You lost your chance when you decided that the more you loved me, the more you lied to me. Did you think you were protecting me by hiding this? No, you were protecting yourself. You were protecting your ego that couldn't handle his wife being busier and more tired than him. You wanted to be a hero for her instead of a partner for me. I knew she was right. There was a burning, uncomfortable truth in her words. I used her absence, her hard work, as an excuse for my own emotional immaturity. Fine, I whispered. I'll call her. But I want you to know, I don't want to leave. I didn't choose her. I chose escape from who I had become. And it was the worst escape. I dialed Emily's number. She answered almost instantly. Alex, are you breathing? Her voice was calm, seductive. I could barely speak, feeling Sophia's heavy, concrete-like gaze on me. Emily, I have to stop this. Sophia knows everything. Our project, it's over. It was a mistake. You must not contact me again. I choose my family. This is the end. Emily. Silence hung on the other end. I heard her deep, slow inhale. Understood. Her voice turned professional and cold. I wish you success in your choice, Alex. But remember, you didn't solve your problem. You only hid it back in the closet. Go home. Or rather, stay home. We have nothing more to talk about. She hung up. Sophia didn't say a word. She just handed me a duffel bag. Pack the essentials. A rental or a hotel. I have money, but don't you dare even think about staying. I can't be in this house with you, knowing your royal day off was spent with her. When you're ready for a real conversation, not excuses, but genuine remorse, we'll talk. For now, go. I took the bag, feeling broken, empty. I looked at my house, at the photo of my children, at Sophia's face, which radiated pain and strength. I'll come back, sophomore. I'll fix this. I whispered. We'll see, Alex. We'll see. She didn't turn away, but her gaze was as if through me. I walked out the door, closing it behind me. I was free from the affair, but had become homeless in my own life. Now I sit in a cheap hotel, staring at the ceiling, and realize that the biggest lie wasn't that I kiss another woman. The biggest lie was that I convinced myself my marriage could be destroyed by one kiss. It was broken much earlier, by silence and neglect. I lost her not because of Emily, but because I stopped fighting for what I had. And now I need to figure out how to become a man again, worthy of coming home. This will be the longest project of my life.